We imagine the world where agents would do majority of things for users. It is highly scalable, highly parallelizable, and it is meant for agents. It's basically a new kind of financial autonomy that you give users that's never ever been possible before. What happens tomorrow if an AI agent takes off and your network isn't ready?
If agents are about to run your money and your life, your chain has to be ready for that. So today, I'm joined by Adeniyi, one of the co-founders of SUI Network, and we're gonna break down agentic payments, real composability, and what an AI-native blockchain actually looks like. Let's go ahead and get into it. Adeniyi, love having you here. Thanks for joining me again. How you doing?
Pleasure to be here, as always.
We've got some cool stuff to talk about. We are entering a really interesting world, or we have entered with AI, agentic payments, robots, and everything. And we're going to dive into a lot of it right now because what you guys are doing at Mysten and with SUI is pretty impressive. First, agentic payments. Say your agent has a wallet and no oversight right now. What's the first dumb thing you think it's going to buy?
A way out? No, I think right now, it's a good question, right? It's actually a fun question in a sense, right? The world we live in today is interesting because we've always touched on, I'm just thinking back to our time at Facebook, right? We imagine the world where agents would do majority of things for users. Like you right now, maybe you're doing your search on like any one of the models. I use Grok. Grok's great. Sometimes I use ChatGPT to get a bit of variance between what they both say. I rarely use Google that I used to, right? I rarely, because I want things that are boiled down. I have to go through 5 or 6 different websites. Soon, what's going to happen is agents are going to want to do things for you, or you're going to want agents to do things on your behalf. And to your question, who decides what that agent can or can't do? How do you set the rules around what it can or can't spend, right? How do you ensure it doesn't destroy you financially with unbounded kind of limits and restrictions? Those are interesting problems we thought of while we were at Meta. We thought, agents weren't as big a deal back then, but now you're talking about literally just 4 years later, how amazing this space has severely accelerated. And we believe the world of agentic finance, or agentic payments, as we call it, right, is going to be the world to go to. The fact that I can give money to an investment advisor and it's going to charge me 1%, and now I can give it to an AI agent and it will charge me bips, pennies on the dollar, and get the same outcomes, if not better performance. So that is interesting. It's going to change how people work. It's going to change how people invest. And now with stablecoins, of course, being the predominant use case for crypto to a large extent, how money is spent is not going to be via credit cards. It's going to be via these agents who are spending stables or other form of stables on your behalf. So if my agent was live today, what would be the thing it would buy? I'd say it would buy SUI, of course, right? But like, let's say, what would be the stupidest thing it would buy? I don't know. I don't want to talk about anything negatively. But yeah, it would buy SUI.
Yeah, it's really a wild world that we're entering with, especially with agentic payments being so like right up there, top of mind for a lot of people. And you guys have had some pretty big announcements around this at your recent events, and just within the past couple of days with the protocol called Beep and the SUI stack that you guys are putting together. So we're going to dive into a little bit about that. And one kind of quote that I wanted to touch on first, that you did a podcast with Christian, and I forget who it was, maybe Coin Bureau, not too long ago. And I'm going to just read the quote here because Christian said this, and I absolutely love it. And I think it's something that people miss. Most of us come from Facebook, where we served 2 billion people a day. So the kind of things that we tend to build are things that will take a little longer to mature, but once they do, they're huge. And Correct. I think this is something a lot of people miss, because what you guys are building is just, you're looking at the big picture, and AI is just a part of it right now. And you mentioned billions of agents and payments. So let's kind of dive into that. And what is your view for where this is going in, say, the next year or two?
Yeah, I mean, the good thing and the bad thing about crypto is, the good thing is, one, capital formation is relatively less friction prone. The bad thing is people get rich awfully too quickly, and the incentive to innovate is literally gone after TGE. We've seen it, right? Many founders launch, they have this amazing promise, and once they launch in TGE, they're out, they're gone. They're off to the next project, doing something else in AI, and abandoning the project to a large degree. So that's the positives and negatives. I think you get that in other fields as well, but I think it's more pronounced in crypto. When we were building at Facebook, right, like we built for 2 billion people day by day. So the things you start working on sometimes seem non-obvious because you're starting from a first principles approach, right? Generally, people like to build on what others have just built. When you want to build from first principles, you need to take a step back and look at what are the problems that we're solving, what are the biggest bottlenecks, how do we solve it? And usually the answers are not always obvious, and usually they require a ton of investment and a ton of time. So when we set out to build the SUI stack, we knew it was going to be a long-term project. We knew it was going to be there were going to be a number of things we had to do to solve these problems, but we were very, very specific on how we targeted them one after the other. And one of our biggest investments was actually in building SUI. SUI is really Libra version 2.0. All the crazy stuff we could not do with Libra due to time constraints, misalignment on teams, just having too much resources. And by the way, having too many resources is actually a curse at times, right? Just having so many distractions and making everything all regulatory compliant, like that focus and all the push and the media and everything else really allowed us to build a fraction of all the things we felt were possible. Now, leaving Facebook, we started again from first principles and said, what are the learnings we took from Libra? Where can we push this? Where do we think the world's going? And what stack is required to make that happen? SUI was that stack. It is an object-based system of first principle. It is highly scalable, highly parallelizable, and it is meant for agents. It's designed for agents. We knew there's going to be a world where humans were not going to do the number of interactions we're going to do themselves. It's going to be aided by some protocol or some agentic flow. And the world we're talking about today is really agentic finance, right? In a world where agents work on your behalf. We recently announced Beep, right? Beep is building, it's basically an AI-based investment advisor, an AI-based treasury management tool for you. It is if you're depositing US dollar, and it automatically looks on what I call on-chain APIs, which are smart contracts on-chain, because that is what we're going to. We're going away from a world where you have these opaque, complicated APIs that you have to plug and sign agreements with one by one, to a world where all contracts and all services are effectively on-chain. This agent will look on-chain dynamically and figure out the best route for you and optimize your portfolio based on the on-chain data that's available to it to move funds from one particular protocol to another. That is low friction. Users don't have to worry about how it works. You just onboard with Google, onboard with a simple username and with your existing identity, and you've got agents working on your behalf in the back end. That is the world we're going to. Your banking, the great thing I think people forget, right, is you used to go to your financial institution because not only does it provide you loans, it also is going to provide you some element of return on your capital, and you pay a premium for that, right? So you're depositing funds, you're paying a premium for the fact that you may be able to get loans, but also, it can give you some form of investment advice. Now you've divorced stablecoins away from banks, and stablecoins are now able to pay yield. What am I going to my bank to actually do now? If I can hold a stablecoin out of a bank, outside of a bank realm, and earn a yield with my stablecoin directly, I can go to my on-chain investment advisor, which is an AI system that can show me historically how well it's done, and it can prove its efficiency. And I can give money to that and pay pennies on the dollar in terms of investment advice. Then what role do banks really play? I think the only role they're going to start to play is one where they are effectively giving you, collateralized loan, non-collateralized loans to a large degree. But once you solve for identity and you start to have on-chain credit systems, I think the role of the bank will be very, very complicated from that point onwards. It's actually going to be protocols, not banks. People versus just systems to a large degree. And that's a world that we're very, very ready for.
Interesting. Obviously, there's got to be a lot of pushback from that because the banking and the financial industry is absolutely massive, and they don't want to go to the wayside like that might potentially do. So when it comes to these agents and the agentic payments, let's specifically speak to Beep here. What's this process of setting up permissions as to what it can do to stay within boundaries and maybe not do something that is illegal or could completely wreck you?
I mean, the amazing thing about SUI is you can set rules on what accounts can do, right? You can build that into the smart contract, set those rules. So Beep can take advantage of the native facilities of SUI to take advantage of. For example, when we're at Libra, one of the problems we had were something called travel rule, right? Travel rule is a rule by which it effectively doesn't want people, if you want to send above some dollar amount, they want to ensure there's a protocol that enables KYC to be exchanged at some point in time to ensure that money laundering was not happening. So these are things we have to build off-chain. Now with SUI, you can build velocity controls directly on-chain. You can build travel protocols directly on-chain. You can build controls to accounts or trading pools to say you cannot trade in this particular pool unless you're a JP Morgan user, or you cannot trade in a particular pool unless you have this KYC credential. So all the rules that were previously off-chain and are completely opaque can now be fully transparent and available on-chain. Beep and other protocol builders can take full advantage of the amazing inherent programmability that SUI offers to give users even greater security and greater access. One of the areas we're going to be working on with Beep actually is, in the area of zk login, leveraging the permissionless nature of zk login, leveraging maybe things like ECA as a way to gain access to multi-chain and basically get assets from all chains possible without using bridging and allow people to benefit from this directly. Imagine sending money to a Bitcoin account and that Bitcoin account instantly start earning you yield, right? And you never needed to onboard to SUI. You go to the website, you send your Bitcoin to your Bitcoin account that you own on chain, and then it will instantly start, basically creating yield for you in your Bitcoin account and pay you the yield in Bitcoin without ever having to leave the BTC ecosystem. This is this kind of stuff that is just impossible to build elsewhere, right? Like that. This is like, look, finance is going to change, right? And the tools that we are going to arm developers with are going to be monumentally different. As I'm saying, we're building a rocket ship here. We're literally building the platform for people to build the most important applications of the future. And to do that, just building L1 wasn't it. There are many things that had to happen to make it this world absolutely possible. And I'm very excited. You can hear it from my voice, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can't wait to fire my advisor. You know what I mean? Start to use services like this. This is where the world is absolutely going to go.
No, I completely agree, and I love that. And that's where the SUI stack, the full stack picture comes into play. And I want to dive into that a little bit more and kind of what that opens up. But I want to stick with the AI side of it still for a little bit longer and talk about kind of the security risks or the implications of what can come with it and where you see us in the kind of the timeline of this. Because when you're merging something like agentic payments or automatic payments, maybe even speaking to a bot to do something with a immutable system like a blockchain, how does that create some friction or some security risk potentially, and how do we get past that?
What could go wrong?
We've
already seen like people vibe coding, right? And the AI agents effectively ships the API key in GitHub or even passwords into GitHub online. People get compromised. So you're right that there needs to be guardrails around AI, and I think that work is really something that SUI can help a lot with, right? Like I mentioned the fact that you can guardrail what bots can or can't do with your account and make that fully visible on chain. Like you can literally say this bot can only spend $50 and that's it, right? Or this bot can only spend during office hours, right? So those are the things that absolutely matter. When it comes to money, it's even more important, right? You don't want to wake up one morning, the bot has decided to buy a meme coin that was created 2 seconds ago because they thought it would be the best way to allocate capital, right? There are a set of things that users are going to care about. Some of it will come from the clients, right? The client application you use might only allow you to engage with, with contracts on chain that have been around for some period of time, or has a attestation from auditors that's been audited and it's been audited for the last 6 months or whatever, and we're not allowed to engage with something new. I think there's still going to be an element of responsibility to client builders versus just the backend systems as well. And that's it's always going to be the case, right? People inherently trust brands directly rather than just protocols, right? It's a brand that you work with. I'm going to choose Slush, I'm going to choose MetaMask, I'm going to choose X, Y, and Z, and all of them are going to have some element of agentic systems that I will trust because it offers me some element of security and privacy. But you as a user, what you care about is that your rules that you set are absolutely adhered to, and the chain is the only thing that gives you that guarantee. It's not going to be some application that builds a front end for you.
Yeah, so let's take, with those rules known, and say you do have a small spending limit on a specific wallet, an example here. Do you still think that, and I'll provide the example, there's going to be some type of a customer service aspect or a third party involved in order to help facilitate and handle any issues? Example here. A couple weeks ago, my kids were talking to Alexa and they signed us up for Amazon Music. Somehow. I don't know how they did it, but thankfully I was able to go on the app and cancel it and have the charges reversed. But that does require the customer service side of it on the other end in a way.
Yeah.
So how do you see something even small, if it's $3, $4, $5 buying a movie, or how do you see that handled in the agentic world where a lot of this stuff is handled without a third party?
Very good question. Humans want to interact with humans. That's just a fact. when it comes to problems, when I need to shout at someone, when I'm upset, do not give me some robot that pretends to be a person. Right? I need, like, we're emotional beings, right? Like we form human connections for a reason. So I don't think you're going to do away with that. What you can do, the best thing to do is build the best app possible that removes a lot of need for support, namely in the sense that it anticipates users' needs and demands, make sure that it does that really, really well, especially scenarios where you want to roll back. I remember with Uber, for example, when I want to get a refund from Uber, they automated a lot of that flow because they realized that was one of the biggest problems they had. They automated the heck out of that flow, and that's just good product engineering, product design. But not failing that, you're still going to need an element of user support. One of the things we have on SUI actually is a messaging protocol. Right? There's inbuilt into SUI a messaging API that people are already starting to build with. In fact, you're going to be able to message users from Slush Wallet soon directly. In addition to sending money to users, you can put a note in there or send message, private email to people directly using the SUI stack and a name service. Why this matters is, let's say, for example, I'm trading on Navi, or I have a lending position on Navi, and I'm a big whale, right? I don't want you to send me to your AI agent because I'm spending enough money with you. I need to have FaceTime. There be a way for you to say, hey, look, I'm willing to pay $5 a month to have direct line communication with a team. I'm willing to pay $10 a month, whatever it may be, but there's a way to get access. Or maybe I've got a particular sign on my account that says I am a whale, or a sign on my account that I'm a new user, right? And support might be free for 2 days, 3 weeks, or whatever it may be. But you can programmatically build communication paths to users. There's beyond the agentic flow that you have right now, directly to users using on-chain principles and core principles as well. That really matters. So in that world, I'd imagine you're going to want access to an agent. You're going to want access to a user directly, and that user better pick up when you call, or at least be able to respond directly to that message when you call. So I don't think we do away with that world. Human beings are absolutely always going to be needed because there's a socio-emotional side that you can't do away with. And you've already seen like there's a backlash to like online content that is agent-based, right? People want to know that what you're dealing with is real. So that matters. There's an element from I want you to do something for me versus I need a very hand-glove touch approach to my concerns and my emotional needs as a user. So that absolutely needs to be done. But I think the chain can facilitate that, right? To make that possible also.
Yeah. I think we probably already see a little bit of that in the Web 2 space, if we want to call it that. Amazon, when I went and requested a refund, even though I felt like I was talking to a person, I'm pretty sure it was all bot automated, the refund, yep. all of it. Now, if maybe I threw a stink and they didn't refund, they could have escalated up to a person. But then, like you said, there's those levels. Like if you're paying for Amazon Prime, you might have a better chance of accessing a customer service representative.
I remember a phone network, a particular phone network that used to have agents. Well, they still have agents, right? I can't mention their name. But I know friends used to say if you just insert a curse word into the prompt, they will put you immediately to a user. So there's even that element that you know that people are upset. They want to talk to somebody, escalate this because our money's on the line. If we lose this customer, it's bad for imagery and everything else. So you're not going to do away with human approach or human touch anytime soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you build the best product that needs no support, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so also with these agentic payments, you guys released or showcased a robot. I don't know if you want to call it a dog or what. This thing was kind of cool at a recent event. And we see talk about robots going much more mainstream even. Neo is one of them. Tesla just launched theirs or kind of unveiled theirs. Do you see these really starting to play a large part in daily life in the near future?
It's good. It's a good question. I think the future might be closer than we think. I still think we're maybe 2-3 years away from seeing this in its full-blown opportunity that you can actually capture. And the reason for that is as follows. One of the things we've been doing that's a bit crazy, that seems very disconnected, right? And I agree, if you think about it, right? We're doing a lot on robots right now. The idea that you can open zkTunnels, pay some fee, and then start controlling a robot. That seems very disconnected. Why the hell would we do that? And the reason for that is actually as follows. We're already in a world where there's a shared economy around cars, shared economy around paying for music, right? Like there's an element of like not owning something and borrowing something. In that world as well, you're going to need protocols that enables that coordination of borrowing and lending and use to be possible. One example we have is that, I can make my computer available for you to use if you need extra capacity. On provisioning that computer for you, what would happen is you could set the kind of prompts or commands that users can run in a terminal. So you're not basically making the entire thing available, and it will gate it for some period of time. Once the time is elapsed, it will shut down the machine, and you can pay again, or just go on to your next thing. That same thing would be with robots as well. For example, there might be a robot or a particular drone in an area you're very interested in the Amazon, and you want to go in and take pictures right away, but you're not going to go and buy a robot to make that possible and ship it over in the time it takes. Just the opportunity cost and just the setup cost is prohibitive. But somebody might find a scenario that, hey, there are enough people flying drones here. Maybe if I just make one available, people can buy and rent it at any time possible. You don't have to hire a customer service team to manage and facilitate that payment. You can do that all using crypto, all orchestrated by SUI. So in the scenario I just touched on, you go to a website, you log in with Google, with zk login or whatever you want, top up with USDC or any kind of stablecoin you want, and then you're on your way. You have some 30-minute to an hour lease of the robot. Take your pictures. It gets streamed to you directly on your Walrus account. Once you're done, the robot goes back. You can go to Walrus and see all the data that was collected. And that world is fully automated, all programmable and orchestration. The internet does not have a control plane. SUI is that control plane. And once you have SUI, you have Walrus and all these things, you can now start to orchestrate robots, orchestrate storage, orchestrate commands, orchestrate access to data, orchestrate access to equipment, and do that at scale, because that's what really matters. So that stuff is absolutely going to happen. There are some examples that we hope to show you soon of people building amazing new delivery service using this kind of technology that was never previously possible. So what you see now are the rumors and the rumblings of what's possible, but they're part of a much broader meta around how real world and users engage with hardware. And that's something I think SUI is very, very well set to do the best of out of any other infrastructure. And I'm not even comparing to other chains, just pure any Web 2 infrastructure. You cannot do that on traditional Web 2 stacks without much investment, much integration, much cost. So.
Crazy. Yeah, just so many different avenues and use cases and things that are coming. It's really a wild future. And you mentioned zkTunnels, and this is something I wanted to touch on a little bit. What do these help really facilitate? Is it kind of besides the allowing of what you described, is it also a privacy factor?
Yeah. So zkTunnels are ways by which you can open up a communication channel with a peer, engage in any number of transactions, and close that communication channel after the fact. The reason why that matters is, let's say, for example, I want to mimic a casino experience, but every move and card that I do, 300 milliseconds on SUI is very fast. But what if I want it to be instant? Like the idea of just waiting 300 milliseconds, maybe it doesn't make sense. Maybe you want greater fidelity to make more moves per second. Well, with zkTunnels, there is no latency because it's a peer-to-peer communication. You open that channel on-chain on SUI, and we use zero-knowledge proofs as a way to communicate with each other in a peer-to-peer channel. Those have no round-trip issues. They're peer-to-peer directly. And when we are done, we submit those proofs on-chain and the channel gets closed. You get an element of privacy, you get lower fees, you get amazing performance out of that as well. And also, you don't have to worry about network outages or anything that could be affected in regards to that as well. zkTunnels are amazing tech in a way that you can use it to control robots, you can use it to do you can basically play card games with it directly with yourself and the provider, and all done in a very, very safe way. So it just expands. I was mentioning that the lower the latency you provide, the more use cases you inherently make possible. At 13 seconds, which lies finality, as many use cases as possible. At 300 milliseconds on SUI, end-to-end finality, not optimistic nonsense, actual end-to-end finality on SUI. There's a broader case of use cases you can build on SUI. Now with zkTunnels, when it's 0, we're talking about 5 milliseconds end-to-end. You're now at a level where the world's your oyster. The kind of applications you can build is greatly even increased. So we knew TPS matters, but more importantly than TPS is actually latency. That's a harder problem to really solve than just throughput. And we keep innovating and solving those problems in very interesting ways.
So how is that possible? I know you guys have FastPath, and I think you brought from Libra, one of the things was FastPay. And it helps facilitate, I think, consensusless payments that are super fast.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it builds off of that, but it's even faster than that. So how is it done so in single digit milliseconds?
So with zkTunnels, it doesn't need to route by the chain. It opens the channel by the chain, and then it uses zero knowledge proofs to compress the transactions between the client applications. And those can go directly by the internet, circumventing consensus entirely. So once that's done, once you're final, you effectively shut down the channel, but that it compresses on chain itself, and then you're done. So the peer-to-peer communication does need to happen on chain. The opening of a channel is agreed by ZK technology on chain, but the closing also happens on chain. But any communication that needs to happen in interim, you can have a channel open for days, years, months, weeks. It doesn't really matter. There's no end to it. You just set the rules that gate what closes a channel and what opens a channel, which is amazing. To touch on like Mr. SETI version 2, which is the consensus algorithm we just improved, right? Like Mr. SETI v2 is now at 300 millisecond end-to-end finality, right? We started Mysten, we started SUI at 1.5 million seconds end-to-end finality. It was already significantly faster than what you get on Solana and other chains. We then upgraded and got down to 500 milliseconds. Now we're down to 300 milliseconds, and we have plans to get down to 200 range as well. So we're always investing in lower latency, and it's all done by our end-to-end research on directional acyclic graphs, DAGs as it's called. We've been able to innovate significantly in that space and create structures that make it possible to reach finality at very, very rapid rates. And without, of course, people like to voice optimistic finality or block times. Those are BS. Ignore anyone talking about optimistic finality or block times. SUI's got fast block time. We can make SUI's block time even faster, but you get no benefit out of it. It doesn't improve finality any faster, right? So what actually matters is what users experience, because if I'm a market maker or I'm a trader, what I care about is I'm putting money behind a trade and a position. I need to know that trade has happened, so I know my capital is allocated correctly. I'm not going to count on some optimistic nonsense only to realize I've either over-allocated capital or under-allocated and lose funds as a result of that. SUI is your trusted chain in regards to that. If you want to have true end-to-end finality that is sub-second, 300 milliseconds is where we are right now. We're going to get to 300. We're going to get to 200 very, very soon as well. So we're innovating, and we're not giving you 5-year roadmaps on how we're going to launch protocol upgrades. We're delivering this stuff in real time.
Yeah, that's for sure. And that's another thing that I love about you guys is you're delivering. And you guys have been around for 2.5 years at this point. And you said just right there, you've already increased the finality time 5x, and you're going to bump it down another 50%. Do you see, 2 follow-ups to that? Do you see, is the lower limit going to be, I think, 140 milliseconds round trip worldwide? Or do you see the potential for clusters of validators where you're just talking to someone 10 miles from you and it could be done in 20 milliseconds? Or where do you see this going in the future?
Yeah, I mean, one thing we cannot and will never break is the speed of light.
Yeah.
I've heard chains say they are at 90 milliseconds and all sorts of nonsense, right? Like, we're not going to break the speed of light. That's not possible. We can get as close as possible to that, but any number beyond that is optimistic. You know what I mean? So we have optimistic finality today. That's faster speed of light. You could say we can get optimistic finality in 20 milliseconds, 25 milliseconds. But again, it's optimistic. So we will not be breaking the speed of light anytime soon, but we will certainly be able to have a global distributed system that can operate at close as possible to what those theoretical thresholds would be. I trust our research team to push that boundary. 200 is already insane. I remember when we reached 500, I thought we're smoking something. But now, for shared objects to get close to 200 milliseconds, that blows my mind. It's insane. But if anyone can do it, our team absolutely can. They're the best in the business.
Yeah, it certainly seems like it. And think maybe 5 years, 10 years down the road, how many use cases do you see, or what percentage of use cases do you think will even need speeds this quickly? And if we look at Web 2 right now, I think the average load time for a website is like 1.5 seconds, maybe sometimes a little faster. But a lot of the stuff we do in today, we're patient, 1, 2, 3 seconds. But if you're talking about a high frequency training is something, obviously the lower you can get it, the better. Yeah. Games, and there's certain use cases. But what would you say if you could toss out a percentage that might actually need a transactions this fast?
Yeah, this is a good question. And I want to touch on something, right? Because it's one thing to have low latency, but it's another thing to have low latency under considerably high load. Most blockchains, when they talk about their low latency element, you only need to then do 100 transactions per second and see that latency spike up into the multitude of seconds. Okay? So it's not true low latency. It's low latency when nobody's using the chain. So we can mimic that anytime we want. Very easy. I can show you how to have a chain that's very low latency when nobody uses it. Very, very easy. But the hard work is building a chain that maintains low latency even on significant load. SUI will give you very low latency at very, very high throughput. So that's what matters. We also showed that if you add 8 times the hardware to SUI, you get 8 times the throughput, 0 increase in latency. So we are built for a world where you have a multitude of applications. So we're building the future AWS and Google stack for developers of the future. What they care about is, can all my workloads be isolated? Can I build a business that is not dependent on someone else succeeding and me failing? Which is how crypto works today. Like if I build a game on crypto today and that game gets successful, well, guess what? Fees goes up for everyone. It sucks for everybody else in the network, right? So you get penalized for being successful in crypto. SUI, you need to have a platform like SUI that effectively, independent on how much throughput the chain is pushing through, latency maintains the same level. Whether you're running at 5 million TPS or you're running at 1 TPS, you still need to have sub-second finality. So that's what really matters, right? So again, to be able to do that, we want to have a wealth of builders on SUI, and we believe we're best set to take on Web 2 developers and onboard them onto the SUI stack. More on that very, very soon. We're actually consolidating the stack into a single story where you'll be able to see a single set of SDKs, APIs to utilize every aspect of the SUI stack without going to 20 different websites to figure that stuff out. That's an area we're working on right now. But we are going to be that stack that anyone that wants to build applications will build on. And in that world, you need to have horizontal scalability, you need to have low fees, you need to have predictable end-to-end latencies, which SUI offers that nobody else in crypto does, right? Like I can show you a chain that will do 1,000 TPS and instantly the latency is in the minutes. I can show you a chain like SUI that would do 10,000 TPS and latency is still 300 milliseconds, right? So which one would you choose, you know? So that's what really matters, right? It's what can you do under periods of high network utilization?
Yeah, and that's just another thing that I love about what you guys are doing is you're not building for today or tomorrow. You're building for the 2, 3, 4, 5 billion people that are going to be using this, hopefully, within the next 2, 3, 5 years, 10 years, hopefully not that long.
Yep.
And sometimes it seems like it takes longer than we'd all like, but we know it's coming and it's inevitable. And you guys are building the foundation to handle that.
As I said, we're truly building a rocket ship here. We're building something that ultimately is going to stand the test of time. And short-term crypto economics doesn't solve those problems. It's really building with a vision of we want to cater to 15 to 20 million Web 2 developers, web developers. Forget about Web 2. You say internet developers. Our focus are developers that are building on the internet today. We want to transition them onto the SUI stack. And to do that, we have to solve these fundamental issues rather than just waving our hands on white papers and protocol upgrades. What happens tomorrow if an AI agent takes off and your network isn't ready? What happens if someone builds a consumer application and they get 2 million users, 5 million users? Are you going to say, sorry, our white paper as predicted 4 years time will get the upgrade? Bear with us, but in the meantime, sorry to deal with these sucky fees, but you're just going to have to eat them up. Or a chain that can turn on 10 computers at the same time and 10x the throughput. So I know what my pick will be. We do not want to be caught with our pants down when users start to leverage the Web3 stacks that we're building today and they get actual product market fit and get significant growth. So, that's why we've made the investments and the decisions we've taken to build long-term that we have today.
Awesome. Yeah, it's definitely coming. It's inevitable, just kind of when at this point, and you guys are preparing for it, which is awesome. Another thing I know you guys are pushing kind of heavily on is the gaming aspect. And I've heard you say multiple times that gaming is possibly one of the easiest ways to bring people into the space. And that makes sense. You've got the SuiPlay device, which I actually got mine right here. Unfortunately, don't have nearly enough time to play it as I'd like. But
we're for Society to go live this month. Society is going to be live this month. You and I can battle.
Awesome. Yeah, I need to find some good games that I can really dive into, sink my teeth into, because I haven't been able to much yet. But where do you see the AI agents and agentic payments kind of falling into this? And I think I saw or heard you say in a recent interview that due to the Linux operating system, is this device, the SuiPlay again, going to be something that I could almost talk to and say, buy this buff while I'm playing a game, rather than opening MetaMask and clicking sign and it does it all for me, with like an actual agent helping me play the game?
Yeah, that's actually in the works as we speak, right? So one of the things with AI agents is they don't have an operating system. OpenAI just recently launched a web browser, for example, right? But I don't think I'm going to be giving up my web browser for a net new browser anytime soon. The closest is Microsoft, who has Windows, and they can build their own agent into Windows directly. But outside of that, you've not really had that direct integration with operating systems with AI that's worked in the level that users really care about. So one of the amazing benefits of having your own operating system or with Playtron owning their own operating system, is they can directly integrate agentic workflows into the OS. I've been looking at a lot of demos they've been running where you can start to effectively command the operating system to open up documents for you, to browse the internet for you, to find information for you, to open up apps, to close apps, to make payments for you. That is the world we're going to, and I think the SuiPlay device is going to benefit greatly from that. You'll be able to talk to your SuiPlay device and ask it to do things on your behalf. And because the SuiPlay device also has a wallet, imagine now, invest my coins, my idle assets into Beep or whatever and get a return in yield. And that yield can go to pay for your next upgrade. So, this is what we're going to, right? Like, composability is a key. The fact that all these things are composable with one another without having to build contracts between them, that's a killer source of Sui. Like, nobody has this stuff. Like, it doesn't exist anywhere else, without using Web2 stacks.
For sure. And I think it needs to be kind of restated or reiterated that a lot of this stuff it can't easily be added later, which is why you guys are building the ground floor, the foundation now to make all this stuff possible. And we see some of these older blockchains or older protocols that try to make changes. And if you're trying to fix a moving train, it's not easy. And you guys are doing it from day one, thinking about this stuff, which is it's just going to open up a world of possibility, which is so cool. Really excited to see what's going to come with SuiPlay and agents. And I haven't been a gamer in a while, but I have a feeling I might have to get back into it and start playing a little bit more because it's so cool.
Yeah, as you rightly mentioned, these decisions are taken on day one. You can't make them after the fact. You can't now turn your blockchain into a highly parallelizable system when your data model doesn't support parallelizable state, right? Like, you can't build an object system into a system that's not built inherently to be object-based. So people have got a lot of catching up to do. I think you need full rewrites to make it possible. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to dive in kind of briefly to the Sui stack. We touched on this a little bit, the different pieces of it. What is it that the Sui stack really opens up? The possibilities that it helps facilitate that might not be possible on other chains that don't have Walrus and Nautilus and Seal and everything
I'd
else.
even say go beyond that, beyond saying other chains, because other chains don't have available storage like Sui does. Other chains don't have parallelizable execution that Sui does. Other chains don't have the load fees and the gas optimizations that we have. So I'd probably compare it more to traditional Web2 stacks, right? What Sui gets that they don't have is a full control plane. Right? The control plane was built as a beginning, namely Sui, the fact that you can control every piece of a moving part using a programmable layer on Sui, and the fact that it's all fully composable. I can build payments into my storage today with Sui with a couple of lines of code with one programming language. Try and do that with any kind of storage today. How many integrations will it take? How many API calls? Oh, people have to use credit cards. Sorry. Like, how many things do you have to do to make that actually work right? And if you ask 10 different people, they'll do 10 different ways, right? With Sui, there is a way to compose payments with storage, which means you can now build streaming applications or video applications that inherently can accept payments out the bat without APIs, without all the code and the junk that comes with it. Similarly, you can build rules of engagement. You can build rules of what your agents can do. Right now, you'd have to have offline frameworks to make it possible, if it were even possible. But the asset will be gated by certain rules that you define as a developer, as a user. So the most important thing is composability is key. I can set rules around data and information. I can set rules around transactions. I can set rules around payments. I can set rules around anything I want. And I think that element is something that is new for any web developer, and I think that's going to be where they go. Because before, you inherently trusted centralized platforms to own user data. In fact, we had to own user data because coordinating externally out of Facebook or other organizations was very, very hard to do. So you're going to build your own infrastructure that can stick to your own company rules and policies and ensure you try and at least hold consumer rights as closely as possible to what is acceptable. But now, with a stack that removes that need, you can build all the rules and policies directly on chain, and you no longer need to be an owner of user data. Users can present data to you, and you can use that data. You can actually process that data using Nautilus, right? Not share any PII directly. So there's so many things now that users can do. I can build private applications on Nautilus. I can build, trading applications using Seal, right? I can build whatever I want now with a single layer and using a single programming language to tie it all together. So the most important thing I'd say out of all that is composability is king. And we are going to a world just like object-oriented programming really allowed us to build more, more complete, more complicated applications, right? All concepts are amazing. We're making the internet object-oriented and composable at the same time. So the same paradigm shift we had with programming languages where object orientation made it possible to build amazing applications, making the internet object-oriented or asset-oriented with SUI is going to allow a new class of applications to be built that were never previously possible. So that's what we're excited about. No more APIs, just pure code.
So would you say in a way that you're kind of rebuilding the internet for this new age? And do you feel that it's almost in competition with everyone else that is worried, or not worried about, but focused on composability across protocols, where maybe you want to do a couple of the actions you were talking about, and it requires 10 different smart contracts to interact with this and then make it private and then have the agent payment, where you guys are doing it all internal. So you see, like, does it feel like you're competing against the entire space in a way by doing this?
Not necessarily, because if you want to compose things across chains, you could just plug into ECA today, and ECA would let you control assets on other chains, Solana, SUI, Aptos, any EVM chain. So you can start to build rules using ECA to control assets on every chain you want. So there's your interoperability story. What we're caring more about is the fact that you can take this and then leverage it to empower Web 2 developers to build more compelling businesses. Because imagine now you don't have to go and pay a storage subscription to someone else and find out how to build services to gate access to information, or worry about payments because it's all taken care of you with a single SDK. Like, all the mess that you have to go and solve as a developer is bundled into a programming language that's object-oriented, which you'd get if you're a traditional developer. So we're going after the internet stacks that exist today and compressing the fact that you used to do all these things using APIs and contract agreements and everything else, now to just simply using an object system to build these interoperabilities between different applications. Like, I can build an app today, and I have no idea who's going to build on it tomorrow, and that's okay. But because my contract is object-based and any interaction with it has clearly well-defined objects, anybody can interact with it as long as they're using the object model. So that is a more open and interesting world, and I think the ability to have a larger captive audience as a developer has greatly increased as well. The barrier to entry is greatly reduced.
Yeah, which is obviously important. I know this is something you speak to often, that in a way we are so early with, what is it, 25,000 full-time developers in this space. Well, Facebook and Amazon, Google alone have 2 to 3 times that, and there's 15, 20, 25 million developers that haven't entered. So it is so important to have that stack that just makes it kind of native. It's like you don't have to learn a new language in a way. I know, even though we're talking about languages move and Solidity, whatnot, but they can come into the space, build what they want to build, and it's not like going and learning an entirely new world for them.
I agree.
Yeah. How we're going to get there, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fun time. It's a fun time to be alive as a builder, right? As an entrepreneur. Tools that previously were prohibitive or cost prohibitive. Like, imagine now someone in, any country, pick any developing country, can now vibe code their way into economic relevance, right? I have ideas. I always get people saying, I don't have a developer, I don't know how to code, I don't know how to this or that, right? There's always some restriction that prevents them from participating. Now those minds can focus on solving problems and leverage the new technologies that exist today, AI, agentic payments, agentic workflows, SUI coordination, storage, and can do that all in the back end and build really amazing, compelling products. Of course, like, this is a prime time to be alive, in my view. More people are worried about, do people lose jobs down to AI? I just think that people will be able to do more. The net productivity of every human being on the planet greatly increases due to these technologies. And also the market, we talk about open markets all the time, but this becomes a much more free market than we have today.
Yeah, and it's for those that are willing to dive in and take advantage of it. Yeah, the opportunities are there. The tools are just mind-blowing how quickly they're advancing. The vibe coding tools that you mentioned, now you can just talk to them. Just start talking to it, and it'll build you an entire app or website or whatever you want in a couple minutes. It's pretty mind-blowing. Back to the SUI stack a little bit. One of the comments or topics of discussion that I see going around the community somewhat frequently is around how it feels like Mysten is often building a lot of the main tools or protocols, and it may actually disincentivize builders wanting to come into this space. So how do you respond to someone that says that?
Yeah, I would say it's It's an interesting argument at the beginning, but when you dive deeper, it's kind of unfounded. In a sense, if you look at it, we've been very clear at the beginning that what we're trying to solve are internet-related problems, right? And internet-related problems means application developers are the winners. They're the ones that can build the businesses on top of it. For example, when we started Mysten, one of the things we wanted to solve right away was beyond having, a solution for how people coordinate what they do online, name services actually matter. There are actually 3 name service providers in the market. 2 of them were scams, 1 of them was real. So the most important thing for us to do is ensure people don't get burnt. So we acquired SuiNS and gave it back to the community. And SuiNS is a canonical name service for the ecosystem. It's actually built by another team, but we ensured that users were not buying fake names or names that would not be canonical in the ecosystem. And having 50 name services make no sense, right? So that's one thing. SuiNS is a community-owned project that exists today, and contributions to SuiNS will come from any number of existing protocols in Sui and outside developers, and they get rewarded for it. The second thing as well is you think about Deepbook, right? What we wanted to avoid was a scenario on other chains where you will have, we've seen, I don't want to name a chain, but there's a particular chain that had a central limit order book that was actually, that had a crank. It was controlled by a centralized organization. And we saw what happened when that organization went out of business. That business failed to continue. So what we wanted was a crankless club, right? There's no control of the protocol, that there is no central entity required to make the protocol work. And offering a bar of entry for anybody. So if I want to build a protocol today, I don't have to figure out how to bootstrap liquidity. I can be successful as a DeFi builder by just simply plugging into a central limit order book. The fact that we have such rich diversity of DeFi apps in the ecosystem is a testament to the fact that we have Deepbook and we have this central limit order book. It allows everybody to win. And with the upgrade coming to Deepbook soon that allows margin trading, every protocol in Sui wins because they can leverage Deepbook to get liquidity or to generate more yield for their users. So those are 2 examples. Beyond that, really, we've not really invested in building anything ourselves in-house in the ecosystem. DeFi protocols are largely self-servant. They run themselves. They get incentives from Sui Foundation to run and operate. Gaming protocols, we don't build games at Mysten, so those are there running themselves. Eka is an external builder to Mysten. We don't run Eka. It's a protocol that chose to build their bridgeless solution with amazing MPC technology using Sui. So again, I'd say it's an interesting argument, but when you dive into the details, it's not really something that translates into reality.
Yeah, that makes sense. 2 final questions that I've got for you. One is, what are you most excited for in let's say the next 6 to 12 months? What's to come from a Mysten and Sui perspective, but also just this entire world we're entering?
Yeah, as I keep saying, Agentic is here to stay. While others focus on hype and promotions, we really care about adoption now. Because look, we've invested 4 years of our lives building this business, and what we care about is developer growth. We're going to be seriously addicted to developer growth for the next 12 to 24 months. It's onboarding new devs, engaging new devs, letting them build amazing applications, building their business on Sui. EVE Online is a great signal of that. Someone that's effectively bet an entire business on building an entire game on platform. A game has been around for the last 20 years on platform in Sui, and there are numbers of those who are going to be announced, of course, next year. But ultimately, we're about adoption. We want builders who have 100 million users that can bring onto chain, that can benefit instantly from stablecoins, earning yield, and everything else. We actually think gaming is going to grow DeFi at a rate that has never been seen before. Like DeFi for me is infrastructure, and they provide a base layer opportunity for application builders to benefit from. So I think you're going to see a mass partnership between games and DeFi protocols that has never been possible before. But also AI agents are going to be the thing. The kind of applications I see builders come into the ecosystem to build, right? Like, look, with Beep, it's smart money. You could talk to it. It's a conversational UI. It executes trades for you. It's settled with USDC instantly. It's basically a new kind of financial autonomy that you give users that's never ever been possible before. So you know what I mean? You plug into SDK. Anyone can build an app on it directly. It's effectively an agentic first treasury in the Sui ecosystem. And there are a number of people building these kind of applications on Sui. They come to Sui because Sui is the only place to make that stuff actually possible. And I want to start seeing more differentiated apps like Beep and all the other things we mentioned on Sui, because that's really where the user is going to come from. If you solve a real paramount use case for consumers, you win the users. The chain should take a back seat, and the app should take a front seat. And really, they should be the ones shining, not the chain.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that vision, and I hope it's coming sooner rather than later because there's so many exciting things coming up. And again, one of the things I touched on earlier again is the robots, Neo robot and the Tesla robot. So last question for you. Elon comes to you tomorrow. Adeniyi, I got this Tesla robot I want you to test out in your house. Yes or no?
Yes, but I'd also say we're working with a major robot manufacturer already right now that is working on a phenomenal launch next year. I can't go into the details, but again, this is why like all these things we're doing around, hey, rent a robot here, like, you know, gain access to a machine using programmatic tools is critical because it facilitates that new commerce world, right? So we're already working on things like this. It's super exciting.
Awesome. Can't wait to hear more about it. And yeah, this is an interesting future and definitely mixed perspectives. Just talking to someone yesterday who said, no way in hell, keep that robot away from me. They're not coming in my house. And we see all the memes that are going around with the holding the pillow, standing over you, stuff like that. It's, yeah.
Don't worry.
We've seen all the sci-fi movies too.
Of course, they have rights to be concerned. But again, the element of, I think the transparency that chains give you now should give the level of comfort users should demand. So I don't want closed systems, especially if it's going to be in my home. I want stuff that I can verify and audit. So that stuff matters on chain.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And that's what this entire Web3 world, blockchain world really opens up that we couldn't have before. So it's great to hear. Again, Adeniyi, I love chatting with you. Great. Thanks so much for coming on. And any final note or anything you'd like to add?
I'll say keep building. Like markets do what markets do. I've been in crypto since 2012. I've seen markets come up, markets go down. The ones who win are the ones that are actually innovating and actually building something long term. And we will keep doing that. We'll keep delivering.
Keep building. Keep pushing. Bring the developers in. Bring the people in. And yeah, let's push towards this wild future we're entering. Again, thanks for your time, Adeniyi. Great chat, and we'll chat again soon.
Thanks very much.